And a land tussle is bringing Nairobi's upmarket Kileleshwa estate after an alleged Chinese private developer announced plans to set up over 4,000 apartments. Residents of Dik Gardens have termed the move as illegal, as the area is public land and no developments can take place. Here's more.
Save the wetlands! Save the environment!
Chants emanating from a group of angry residents of Nairobi's Dik Gardens rent the air. These lot of residents are demanding for protection of wetlands. The residents now claim that an 8-acre piece of land has been grabbed.
What we have today is, as the residents, our desire to protect the Dik Gardens wetland. The wetland you see behind me here is about 8 acres, and it sits between the Dik Gardens and the Kenya High School.
According to Aidan Mulata, who is the vice chairman of the Dik Gardens Residents Association, the land is presently valued at over 400 million shillings, and the land continues to be a center of attraction for a number of real estate developers.
We have had a professional study done by Water Resource Management Authority, and they have identified that there are at least 3 wetlands behind us here, yes, with one of the wetlands extending into Kenya High School. And according to the documentation from Water Resource Management Authority, no development should take place, and this wetland needs to be protected.
I've been a resident here for 30 years. This was when there was no other houses here. We were one of the first houses to be built here. Even when we built, our plot was tapered. The reason it was tapered is because there's wetlands right behind my house. We asked for an extension at that point. Can we move our wall? And at that point we were told that it's a wetland. Nothing can be built on this wetland, which was fair enough, and so we kept our wall the same way. And now suddenly the plots have been sold, and people want to come and develop into the wetlands.
Maps and various documents seen by KT News show that the land in question is a wetland, something residents argue ought to be conserved.
What we have today is a developer who has not been able to show us any approval for the development, whether it is environmental impact assessment, whether it is approval for the building and so on. But what we have had is about apartments coming up to figures as high as 4,000, which this area cannot hold. It will lead to the destruction of the wetland, and of course there are other secondary issues like accessibility in terms of the roads that are there. So it's really a very tight environment in terms of a developer who has ignored the residents, who has ignored existing infrastructure, who has ignored the laws of the land, because you can see the access from the city hall. He has stop order from Warma, there's a stop order from NEMA, and despite that he went ahead and proceeded to clear almost 6 acres of the wetland.
The land, which is adjacent to Kenya High School, is a key buffer that residents say they'll not relent in protecting it.
This land was always a wetland. Yeah, nothing has changed so far. So this development will actually destroy the only little bit of wetland that's left. Yeah, we've got that in Kenya. There's so many small pockets of wetland that have all been destroyed. Yeah. There's no place, I mean, you see big trees here. That is in the wetland. So the minute any private developer actually comes to develop here, you'll see all the trees disappear.
As Kenyans, we have a responsibility to protect our environment. We've seen our road reserves going. We've seen parks that are meant for public enjoyment. City Park, for example, and a lot of the parks in residential areas where children are supposed to play. The next thing you see, somebody has grabbed it and is building. We cannot sit back and watch this continue to happen. We have a responsibility to protect our environment for future generations, for ourselves. We have to really play our part. We cannot sit back and watch even our wetlands go.
So far, residents have sought intervention from the National Environmental Management Authority, NEMA, and the Water Resource Management Authority, which have issued stop orders to the alleged Chinese developer.
He's a foreign developer, and we don't want to encourage somebody coming from outside and coming and destroying our flora and fauna. But we want to assure Kenyans that we are committed on their behalf.
All these wetlands and trees actually belongs to the people of Kenya. Yeah, it isn't privately owned. It cannot be privately owned.
We are now faced with a threat. The threat is development. We have a beautiful wetland, the one you can see behind me, and there's a threat for it to be developed.
If the residents fail in their bid to secure a court order as it stands, the developer will be at will to construct 4,000 apartments in the prime neighborhood.
We're not opposed to development per se, but development on a wetland, no, that's not allowed. Even by law, it's not allowed.
A spot check shows the Nairobi County government marked the land as a no-go zone, something residents say is still not enough.
We have what we call environmental services. Now, when you have a wetland, what it does is it allows for what we call groundwater recharge. When it rains, the rain percolates into the ground, and it's stored in an aquifer, an underground aquifer, and that is where now we get water that we use in different ways. It's purified, it goes through different kinds of sedimentation, and it's because it can pass through the springs. What we have behind us are springs. Now, if you cover those springs with construction, basically you're blocking that water from penetrating into the ground.
According to Nzani, an environmentalist, the wetland has water streams that feed into Nairobi River. Nzani argues that constructing apartments on the riparian land will be disastrous.
When you build on a wetland, first of all, your structural integrity is compromised. I know of cases of buildings that are near wetlands where they come to work the next day and there are cracks. I know of a very famous hotel in Nairobi where they come to work in the morning and there's no water in the swimming pool. And the reason is it's been built next to a wetland. The ground is always shifting.
We have to take this battle legally. We have to use all legal means to first maybe find out how the land was allocated in the first place.
Making a splash on the German rap scene. Haiti.